Function, pumping and dumping, manipulate the market, flooded from the darknet, flooded from the deep web, keep it a secret. Every exchange got the nerdy brains trading on the frequent.
I forgot to do the transition there, the stinger. So anyhow, because everything's already a mess, I'm going to do the spiel real quick again. Hello everyone out there who are watching this pre-recorded video. A little bit of background here. First of all, hi, I'm Sidepocket. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201, formerly known as DEFCON 201 and DC 201. We are a computer hacker group collective that meets third Friday of the month in Jersey, New Jersey. In fact, if you're living in the current time period, this Friday, which will be May 21st, 2021, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to actually have our meeting. It's going to be entirely virtual reality theme. It's going to be really cool. If you want to know more things about us, you can go to our website, which is at defcon201.org, or any of our social media down here, such as defcon201nj on Twitter, or defcon201 on Instagram, GitHub, the hostducks. So this is a Mastodon, all of that. So you might notice that there is no chat on the side. That's because this is a pre-recorded video. We tried, we were doing a special episode of Crypto Barons, hence the little logo in the corner, where it's a show I normally do second and fourth Saturday of every month, where we talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies as technologies. We get a little bit into markets, and we get a bit into community, but we mainly want to look at, like, how do they work, what programs do they use, what coding languages, can we run wallets, test nets, etc. And today, which is this Wednesday, which I believe is, the 19th, there's a convention going on, online convention called Polkadot Decoded. I thought, hey, I have off of work today. Why don't I just live stream this? And it was going really well. And then after 2 resets, we had to realize that essentially now it's weird because I don't know if this is a problem exclusively at Hopin or the way the Polkadot people are using Hopin, but essentially it's at an uncapped bandwidth that they're broadcasting from, meaning that like OBS uses a decent amount of bandwidth that we stream from. The Hopin uses the entire rest of the bandwidth, so it was crashing the entire internet for the streaming computer. Like, everything would go down. The internet would just fail. So because tech support is currently asleep right now, I was originally going to try to hook up another machine. We're going to do that type of stuff on Friday. I've conceded defeat because of shitty platforms, and what we're doing now is I am pre-recording. It's going to be mainly I'm not doing the fireside chat. We're just going to do the security portion, so it's going to be about 40 minutes long, and how they're going to use Polkadot for, like, security and privacy. And this will be published and or broadcast later at about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's what's currently going on. I'm actually going to make an Instagram update while I watch this about all of that. So let's get right into the main stuff, since we don't have to do with live streaming chats and things, and I keep forgetting to do the stinger. So just to point out once again, and this is the meetup we're going to have. It's going to be in May 21st, starting at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. Virtual Light is going to be entirely virtual reality themed meeting. It's going to be really awesome. Our main keynote is going to be from the awesome folks at XRSI about security and privacy of virtual reality and augmented reality platforms and devices and headsets and stuff. And we just have amazing talks, and we're going to actually be hosting it in a virtual reality virtual reality space that's called Now Here, instead of our usual, oh geez, I hate this scrolly crap, instead of our usual Zenf call. We're going to be meeting in a virtual reality space called Now Here, which all you need is a base anything that based on Google Chrome browser, especially Google Chrome itself, it just runs. Might work on other browsers, but that seems to be the best one for it. Also, we're going to have a DJ playing music during the event by DJ Volup. He is experienced with DJing in VR, and we're just really super excited for this meetup that once again is going to be on May 21st, 2021. That would be this Friday if you're living in this week at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, I have to point out, like with the other streams, the markets are all still currently going down. This is right now the great cryptocurrency crash of 2021, where thanks to Elon Musk farting and a bunch of other mistakes, including one trading company the startup that debuted, and they were supposed to give everyone a free $400 when they signed up, and said they gave a free 400 Bitcoins. Not Satoshis of Bitcoins, but Bitcoin itself. The entire market has crashed here. So Bitcoin's down, Ethereum's down, Binance, or Binance, however you pronounce a coin, is down. Tether's just rebounded. Cardano's rebounded. The almighty Dogecoin that was rocketing to the moon is now rocketing into the sun. XRP, Polkadot even itself is down. Let's see what other ones have. USD coin, because I think that was one that was promoted by the company, is stable, plus it's technically a stable coin. Matic, which we're going to cover on hopefully on June 12th, because I've had to delay covering Polygon and Matic, has been stable at the entire time. Stella's down, Ethereum Classic's down, Authentic Token's down, Tron is down, DAI is completely stable for some reason, Monero is down. Everything is just down, down, down. So yeah, that's what's been going on there. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this program. So I'm actually going to close these two windows. So again, like I said, we're going to be watching. So we fortunately just missed a bunch of stuff, including Polkadot for smart cities. And the three talks we're going to be looking at in this video is providing your identity and protecting your data with social KYC. And then followed by Automa Networked Web 3.0 realized with traceless privacy and seamless compatibility. We will be the judge of the traceless privacy. And then we're going to end with a dispatch from the front lines of multi-chain deployment. So that's what we're going to be watching, and hopefully hop in, since now it's just, this is recording and it's purely on the internet. Hopefully it doesn't crash. So yeah, let's go do this here. So we're at hop in. Let's go to the stage area. And if this is live streamed, because I'm not sure if we're going to live stream this at the 5 p.m. or we're just going to upload it, I will be in the chat. So if the chat is running, you can talk to me in the chat. Otherwise, keep lurking, keep learning. And again, even though this is pre-recorded, if you like what you see, you can hit that bell for notifications on YouTube and click like, share, subscribe completely for free on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. That bar above us in particular is we're trying to get to 100 DLive followers so we can get the Crypto Superstar, and that way we can do a lot more with the DLive account, especially for Crypto Barons. And if this is live streamed, just like with normal Crypto Barons, I will at 2:40, 2:45 we'll be distributing, sorry, not 2:40, 5:40, 5:45 we'll be distributing 11. So let's go see this first security talk here.
The link is clicked, and when the link is clicked, obviously this user controls this email account. She can, social KYC can then make a hash of a credential, put it on the Kilt blockchain, and also mark it as valid. As a last step, or last but one step, a social KYC will issue the credential to the sporon of the user. The user can then check the validity of her credential on the Kilt blockchain, and social KYC can forget about the whole process. So now the user is in possession of this credential, and now she probably wants to show it somewhere. So she interacts with the service. That could be a newsletter site or something, so she wants to sign on there. And the service asks her, do you have an email credential? And the sporon pops up and says, yeah, we have an email credential. Do you want to share it? And then the user signs it, and the sporon sends it over to the service. So the service can now look it up on the Kilt blockchain if there's the hash of this credential, and if it is valid. And if it's valid, then the whole process is through. So that's how it is. Very easy, actually. Let's have a small look how this looks in practice. So first, we do the process of adding a social KYC credential. So first thing that you see here is a browser. This browser has, on the upper right corner, there's a little blue thing. This is the Sporon extension, which is already installed here. and the user goes to a website where the social KYC service is, and now wants to have his email credentials. So I want my email credential now. There I click on email. This drops down a bit. I can put my name and my email address in here and say request attestation. So when I request the attestation, the service, Social KYC, starts to communicate with my browser, and the browser pops up the Sporin extension. And I see already, I don't know if you can see that, and this is an email credential. It's for ingo@kilt.io. It is signed by Social KYC, and I can now give it a name. And I can sign this thing with my password, and then I can click accept. And when I click accept, Social KYC is going to send me an email. So let's check the inbox. So I have my email here. It's from Social KYC. I confirm my challenge. And now Social KYC just tells me, okay, this has been written on the blockchain, or the hash has been written on the blockchain, and I can now save my credential in my Sporin. So I click here on Save Credential. Sporin pops up again and says, we just received this credential. I can, because this is just a browser extension, right? I can, it would be nice if I save this somewhere on my hard disk. So I can save the credential on my hard disk as well. And I'm done. So this is the process of acquiring credentials. And this is what you do in 1% of the cases. Normally, you show your credential. Now let's see how that looks, showing your credential. So presenting part of my digital identity to a service. Very simple service here. We have a newsletter service. I can either type in my name and type in my email address, receive an email, click on the link to my as a consent. Okay, that would be a little bit complicated. It's much easier to sign up with Social KYC. So I click the Sign Up Social KYC button, and what pops up is my Sporin. It shows me the valid credential, email credential from Social KYC. So it's already selected. I just have to put in my password here and say I want to share the credential with the service, and that's it. Because now the service and the extension speak together. The service, like this newsletter service, checks on the blockchain if the credential was valid, and I'm done. Right. So this is now not more complicated than signing up with Facebook, actually. So we think this is quite a nice idea, and it gives the sovereignty back to the user. So I think we are already now. Timeline, this is always important. This thing isn't live. Version 1 of the Sporin, which has coins only, will launch shortly before the go live of the Kilt mainnet. Version 2 with the credentials will launch approximately 2 to 3 months later when we have the full decentralization of the Kilt network. And in parallel with that, version 1 of the social KYC, including a few social networks, will be released. And towards the end of the year, we're going to add functionality for also proving ownership of your crypto accounts in there, probably for Polkadot and Kusama, of course, but probably also some more. So who's working with us on projects, including social KYC, Galani projects? Of course, there are development partners. We have Polkadot and Fractal, interesting project. We have DBio from the genetics field. We have GameDAO. I think the name says it all. And of course, Subsocial. I think everyone in the audience knows those guys. So I'm already through with the talk. We can switch to Q&A if you like.
I have some questions I'm going to type in.
Thank you very much, Ingo. We have a few questions here in the chat. I think the first question here is interesting. Actually, from Brian, our DJ. How do you? What's your adoption strategy for social KYC? And I think maybe you can maybe also talk about sort of, I don't know if say competitors, but other like sort of Web3 login solutions that are in the marketplace now. How are you looking at rolling out social KYC to a larger user base?
Yeah, I think the key in adoption or for adoption actually lies in partnerships. This is why we start partnerships already now. And everyone with cool projects which might need social KYC is already invited to talk to us, and we are going to open up the interface, of course. It's all open source, so that people can start interacting and spreading the word about that, because we think there's a lot of use cases actually out there for social KYC. We just have to find them, or they have to find us. Right? So this is basically the adoption strategy. Like every good open source project, we do it via corporations.
Yeah, for sure. So there's already some sort of base level identity functionality being built into Polkadot, whether there's the registrar system or other existing sort of identity features. Are you using or extending any of those? And if not, sort of what was the design decision in building it all within your parachain?
Well, the things which are implemented inside Substrate are not the standards, DIDs, and verifiable credentials. It's basic identity functionality, which is great and which can definitely be somehow linked together with what we do. Well, it's all one chain in the end, right? So via XCMP or so, we will find ways to also incorporate that. But the identity functionality, which includes verifiable credentials, delegation trees, revocation of delegations and of attestations, this is a highly complex thing, and I don't think that something like that actually belongs, well, somewhere on the relay chain or so. This has to be a parachain because it is really a complex and it's a use case which is so widely used and produces so much load that it justifies its own chain.
Yeah, someone else in the chat asked, this sounds like an amazing thing. It should be a common good? And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would push back against that and say a common good chain, because you generally have to use DOT or KSM on that chain. It's not necessarily a model that is cut out for the token economics of something like this. Is that right, or what are your thoughts around that?
That's a complex question going into the token economics. We have some, I think, quite good ideas about how you can make token economics around that. But the guy who asked the question is definitely right. It is something where those credentials, or saving those credentials on the blockchain, cannot be extensively expensive, right? Because then people just can't use it, or people just won't use it. If storing my credential on the blockchain or storing the hash costs like 20 euros or something, then people probably don't want to accumulate many credentials. Because when you look at the whole credentialing business models, the real work is done by the attester, because the attester has to find out if the attestation should be issued or not. This is real work, and this work has to be paid. And if we take the money away there and put it into the blockchain, then it's wrong. So you need complex business ideas around a token economy when you want to have something like that successfully and efficiently running. And we put some of those ideas in there, but we have also seen projects in the past, not saying names, which worked in the field of identity and were not really successful. And I think we learned a lot from them, and we make it a little bit different.
Yeah, identity is a very hard problem and a crucial one to solve. Sort of interested in sort of where you think sort of building off social KYC, where it can go sort of beyond just web logins. There's a couple people asking about the potential sort of nation state implications if something like this really gains adoption. Where your thoughts are in terms of like what this could actually be expanded towards, like just a broader digital ID, either whether it's for a business to run for their employees or for a nation state to integrate into the way it manages a citizen's engagement with its government.
My feeling is that nation states will probably need a couple of years, if not to say decades, to adopt a system like that. That's probably not what we should look at. I think we should look at use cases which are much closer to us. So what we see right now we had this idea a couple of months ago and are now starting to talk about it a little bit. And what came in first is actually people who do gaming. Next thing which came in is people who do education. So this can be really interesting for it. And not all education is a university or a school. There's also NGOs doing education and those. So those things are actually piling up now and wanting to adopt this technology. I think it also has. When we incorporate the crypto addresses, then I think DeFi is also going to be a space where it is really needed and probably very, very nicely adopted. But I think it's dangerous to first go with the nation states because the nation states are not ready and willing to do something like that. Maybe they adopt later.
The
in 10 or 20
blockchain governance
years.
makes more sense to go first. Yeah. Adding another layer to sort of reputation systems and identity in on-chain governance is, I think, certainly a better place to go first. Ingo, thank you very much. Everyone stick around. We'll be back soon with our next community talk.
Great conference.
So that was the crap. I just forgot what it was too. That was the prove your identity and protect your data with social KYC. Kind of interesting. I actually was shocked, although maybe not that shocked, that it was gaming platforms, according to him, that sorry, I've got the music in the background here. That tried to reach out to them first. I actually don't know if these are independent developers and publishers or these major video game companies, because there's rumors that Sony's going to make one, like their own basically like in-token reward system for cryptocurrencies or whatever. So who knows? I'm trying to update our social media while I'm watching this. Unfortunately, I didn't realize, but you saw me check there, that there's a separate Q&A system, because I did ask a question in chat, and my question was, which they didn't answer in chat, because I hope they didn't ignore the question, and it was just because I didn't post it in the Q&A section, because now I know there's a Q&A section. So that's why I'll message. And if I ever have these folks on a future Crypto Barons, I'm going to ask them this question. But my question was, like, the two vector points I could see where this goes wrong is, one, you're having a browser communicate with an extension, and that is room for error on man-the-middle of attacks between the information being sent from the browser to the extension. I don't know if if the information being sent over is properly encrypted or not, or what type of encryption, but that's a common vector point. It's always clicking between tabs or extensions talking to browsers. The other issue that kind of gave me a red flag with this is when he said that it sends back a confirm email. And so my other question was, so I asked him, one, how are you preventing man-in-the-middle attacks between the communication between the browser and the add-on application? And two is what things are you implementing that will combat phishing within email? Because that is especially super common in the cryptocurrency and blockchain spaces. Most of the time when people get their wallets stolen, it's because they get phishing attempt emails. For all of you who don't know out there, phishing is and actually I'm going to switch over to Face while I'm at it. Phishing is it kind of sounds like what it is, except they spell it with a PH, but it's like phishing for fish, but instead of phishing for fish, you're phishing for people's user data. And in this case, what they often do is they masquerade as either a cryptocurrency trading organization or application, or they masquerade as the core foundation of that cryptocurrency itself. and say that, hey, you know, we're doing an airdrop or we're updating the wallet, and then they ask for, which pretty much none of them should ever ask for, which is your wallet credentials, and then that's how they get in and steal all that stuff. And there's an extra surprise apparently. A lightning pitch. Here we go.
Development, if they're in development stage at all. But when we heard Deli discussing his vision for Automata, we thought it worthy of the main stage. Automata Network is a decentralized service protocol that provides middleware-like privacy services for dApps on Polkadot to achieve privacy.
I won buzzword bingo.
Computation, offering features like anti-front running and anonymous voting. Deli, thank you for joining us. It's quite late for you. We really greatly appreciate you being with us here today at Decoded.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I'm happy to just join the Decoded event. Hi, guys. I'm the co-founder of Automata Network. I'm so happy to speak here and share our thoughts on how we can bring privacy to the entire Web3. Our team is based in Singapore, and we have team members who previously worked at Zilliqa, Longhash, and National University of Singapore. We are building a decentralized service protocol using Substrate, and our goal is to create privacy middlewares for dApps on multiple platforms, including Polkadot, Ethereum, and many others. So in the past several months, we have seen that Ethereum is turning into a dark forest. If you are a DeFi user, whether you realize or not, you are already the victim of MEV, or miner extractable value. MEV already has impact on users, and we will talk more about it later. The scary thing is what happened on Ethereum will also happen on other public chains too, because for most platforms, privacy is not a first-class citizen since day one. But this is not a blame. We understand that it's a trade-off of being a public and secure blockchain, but the cost of not having privacy is just too high. According to some estimations, the total extract MEV has reached over 500 million. There are many reasons behind, but information leakage is certainly one of them. So user expectation is a transaction that carries sensitive trade should not be revealed to anyone before it gets confirmed or executed. But in reality, on blockchain, the transaction is exposed too early to the wrong party in many places. For example, public mempool allows anyone in the world to see your unconfirmed transactions, and miners can see everything before the next block is mined. And combining this advantage with the superpower of deciding the transaction ordering, miners can easily extract profit from users. And remember that MEV is not only happening on POW or POS chains in layer 1. Layer 2 solutions also have the same issue. So public chain has transparency, but there's also dark side of it. If you are a crypto user, your on-chain activity is exposed, including voting, lending, swapping, and so on. You may have multiple wallets, but if you have transactions between them, they will be linked forever. And if you have ever posted your wallet address on Twitter or other platforms, your off-chain identity is now permanently linked to all your crypto activities. The more you use crypto, the more you are exposing unless you start over from a fresh wallet. But it only takes one careless move to get it exposed again. Now we move our focus off-chain and take a look at API services. Many will think of API services as free lunch, but nothing is truly free. Everyday users and developers send billions of API calls to all kinds of API services. They are either hosted by third parties or backed by unknown nodes. You can't imagine that they are already collecting, studying, and extracting information from the user queries. They can get information about user profile and user interest, such as the new listing, new strategy, and new trends. So the truth is, these services are not free, and we are the product. Automata is trying to save the platforms that were in the dark forest. We protect user privacy by providing safe rooms to perform the transactions and process user information privately. These safe rooms are built with trusted hardware technology like Intel SGX and algorithms that conceal user activity, which is oblivious RAM or ORAM. One important property we provide is even the hosting nodes are not able to see the content inside those safe rooms. In addition to a strong guarantee on privacy, we have also several advantages. First, we can integrate with existing dApps in a non-intrusive manner. Second, we can provide many privacy services. You will see that later. And third, we have great compatibility with many chains, allowing us to bring privacy to the entire Web3. And here's our approach. We are just offering privacy services as middlewares, sitting between user browsers and existing dApps on blockchains. And this design could benefit both user and developer. User will not feel any difference because they are given the same web interfaces. It saves time on user education. And developers don't need to redeploy their smart contract to any new platforms. This reduces the migration cost. And more exciting thing is we can even provide middlewares across different chains. This is something we are exploring at the moment. And next, I will introduce some of the middleware services we are building. So Conveyor is a service that accepts transactions from users and output transactions in a determined order. This creates a front-running free zone that removes the chaos of transaction ordering and makes it impossible for block producers to inject new transactions into the output or delete any transactions from the output. And now that DEX will be able to find out if the transactions is going through the conveyor and can choose to reject any unordered transactions. Essentially, it disarms the block producer. They cannot manipulate the transaction order anymore. And the conveyor is running on Automata's decentralized compute plane, which provides safe rooms for the transactions and can keep everything private until the order is decided. And next is Witness. Witness is an off-chain voting service for voters who don't want to reveal their identities during governance, or put it simply, they want to do announced voting. The workflow is very simple. For each proposal, users just send their vote to Witness, and Witness waits until the proposal is ended and then publish the result. In the result, it will not disclose voters' identity or preference. And the service is already up and running, and currently is at the stage of developer preview. And we've added support of many platforms such as Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Clover Finance, and Plasma Network, and more will be added soon. And next is Librarian. It's an indexing service that's not tracking users. It first aggregates and caches data from many data providers to guarantee data integrity. And then it serves all sorts of user queries without tracking them. This is based on a strong guarantee in our compute node. Anyone can verify that the code is not tracking user at all. And this service is still at early stage development, and we are working with partners like Polkadot Network to expand our support to more substrate-based chains in Polkadot ecosystem. And here's an overview of the protocol. Automata has 3 planes. At the core is a control plane. It is built using substrate to decentralize the entire protocol. And the second plane is a compute plane where all the privacy services are running. The node at this plane is called Shield, which can be provided by any third-party providers. And the last plane is the service plane. It's a virtual plane that we have interactions with users and other platforms. And for other service vendors, they can also choose to develop and deploy middleware services just like us on Automata. Let's now take a look under the hood to see the technologies in compute node. One of them is Trusted Execution Environment, or TEE. Specifically, we are using Intel SGX to create those safe rooms. They are often referred as enclave. The other technology we are using is Oblivious RAM. It conceals access patterns from enclave to external storage, preventing any malicious actors from inferring any sensitive data based on the access patterns they observed. Okay, that's everything more about us through the following channels. And our team is still hiring. If you want to build invisibility clock inside the dark forest, please drop us a message. And thanks again for having me today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. I got a couple of questions here for you. First off, so this is middleware. How would a parachain team or community go about integrating, say, the conveyor to protect their chain from MEV attacks?
Yeah, so just like I mentioned, we will be just the middleware sitting between user browser and the API endpoints. So it's actually very easy for those parachain developers or projects to work with us. At the moment, we can just develop any kinds of middleware service inside, for example, Witness and also Conveyor. But in the future, we will open up this ability to more developers, basically allowing them to deploy their own services and just make it just a middleware for themselves.
Yeah. So what about users, right? So let's imagine like a development team for whatever reason hasn't gotten around to implementing, is there a way that a user can still route their interactions with a parachain through your system to still gain some of the benefits without before a parachain team gets around to integrating, or is that something that has to be pushed by the community on to make a parachain more private?
Yeah, I guess it's also up to user and both the community. Both the project. They can in most of the cases, for example, for the witness, we already supporting many of the project in Polkadot ecosystem through EVM compatibility, and in that case, it's actually if user wants, we can just directly integrating with more platforms without actually getting some support from the project. But actually, if we can have that kind of support, it's better because the integration will be much smoother.
Absolutely. Last question here. One of the three, I guess, core sort of modules of your network is Witness. Someone's asking how Witness solves the man-in-the-middle problem, if it does.
Okay, actually, so it is about the technology we are using here. So first, we will have end-to-end communication channel between user browser and the enclave. So it's directly terminating inside the enclave, which is very safe. And then we use this channel to basically deliver the user's vote secretly to our privacy services, basically Witness. Then Witness will just do the processing also privately inside the enclave. And only when it decides to publish the results, people can see the outcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone stick around. We will be back for our final community talk of the day with Derek from Moonbeam after this.
Okay, so that was, because I can't remember anything for crap today, that was Automated Network Web 3.0 realized with traceless privacy and seamless compatibility. I just recently found out that none of the chat functions that I have are working today. So that means even if I could get even if I didn't know about the Q&A tab, as you saw me try to do, I can't seem to enter any questions in for some reason. I have no idea why. Okay, on. This has been a rough day. I've had to, I had to get up in the morning, which I already don't like doing on my day off. And, everything was going really fine in the beginning, and then just hop in, ate up all the bandwidth, and started crashing everything. So that was fun, not fun. So definitely after this, I'm going to take a well-deserved nap. But it's kind of, it's funny that they use this to follow the previous talk, because that, at least, if they decide to use those systems for the previous talk, which I don't know if they ever clarified they did, but at least that would solve some of my problems with the middle attacks. My issue is I couldn't tell by the way he talked if these solutions are actually between are actually hosted on their end, or if these are applications that you deploy on your server or chain to run, because I don't know if this is open source or not, but regardless, if it's running on their end, there is kind of a worry about, okay, you are adding security, but as what security usually does, usually a part of security is centralization. So everything going through the same core applications, even if the way it received was decentralized, kind of defeats a bit of the whole purpose of decentralization, in my opinion. So that's been throwing me for a loop currently. Trying to think if there's anything else about the topic at hand. It's with some snagging music. It's more of like I'm thirsty all of a sudden, so I really want to get some water. But unfortunately for me, we still have 4 minutes, and there's nothing really content-wise where I can, because this is all pre-recorded. I mean, technically what I could do is I could just leave this funky music on and go get some water. But let's see, 36, 37, 38, 39. So there's like 4 minutes left. I'm going to open up a new window. Let's actually go to the program again, because I'll show you what this is. This conference was completely free. It's just hop in. great at everything but trying to live stream from it. So earlier, we were trying to get capturing behind the code. Unfortunately, we missed all of this because of setup. And so then we got to the weird guy known as Robert Heimer, who is like he was like the typical like blockchain bro that you would think about. And despite talking about technology, he was seemed to be the least one talking about like code and stuff. He was also at the panel that happened afterwards where I keep reading that as Jeff Bridges. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit more on this. There we go. But yeah, he was on there, and Joe Petrovsky, if I remember correctly, Petrovsky, he had, I believe, a CCC shirt, so that was interesting. Unfortunately, I missed the Auction Zone mine. We saw a little bit of the Composing Next Gen dApps with DeFi Legos on Alka. Boy, that's a mouthful. But unfortunately, that's when the second crash happened. And then that's made me realize, oh, it's actually the bandwidth with Hop-In, because you'll notice how smooth this recording's going. And yeah, I really wanted to see Origin Trail making supply chains work together on Polkadot for smart cities. Oh, now we're back. Final talk. Here we go.
Many of you are familiar with Moonbeams.
Let's look at Moonbeams.
Last year at Polkadot Decoded, well, I guess it wasn't quite a year, but they really made so much progress since then and helped so many Ethereum native teams into the multi-chain future that we all envision. So we thought an update from Derek was warranted. They really have been doing tremendous work onboarding established projects as well as new teams. The numbers really don't lie. Moonbeam has helped over 150 teams as they plan their multi-chain deployment. That's more than most linear mono-chain smart contract platforms out there can boast by quite a stretch. Through these conversations, several common deployment patterns have emerged. In this talk, Derek will highlight 3 major multi-chain deployment patterns, including the benefits, challenges, and opportunities that came with each. Derek, welcome to New York. Take it away.
Thanks, and thanks for hosting me here in the studio. This is great. I'm Derek Yu. I'm the CEO of PureStake, and we're the team that's building the project Moonbeam. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about our project just as context. First, Moonbeam is to be a parachain on both the Kusama as well as the Polkadot networks. The goal of the project really is to provide the easiest possible development environment for developers that want to deploy applications and build applications on Polkadot. And we really felt that it was an important thing to build, to provide options to developers, so they had options. They could choose Substrate, which we in fact have used to build Moonbeam, but that they could also have these other options for development to fill kind of an important need. We've worked quite closely with Parity and others on an Ethereum implementation in Substrate. That's really a core part of what our parachain is right now. And that includes quite a bit of work around all of those pieces that you need to have a full working Ethereum deployment. So things like an EVM, a Web3 RPC. We've done work around the account system, and a lot of work around the integrations in the platform. So and I'll talk a little bit about those things in this talk. But I wanted to use Moonbeam as a way to talk about something broader, right? So we're seeing certain trends in the market, and I wanted to use kind of what we're seeing on Moonbeam as a way to talk about these broader trends. In particular, this trend from what I'd call mono-chain deployments to multi-chain deployments. It's something that is happening right now. People's thinking is changing about what it means to build a protocol or decentralized application. And so just to give a bit of additional context, we have at this point a very substantial ecosystem of partners that are building on Moonbeam. Some of them are pictured here. Some of them will be announced in the near future. And even beyond this set of projects, as Peter mentioned, we've talked to a lot of different teams to understand what their deployment strategy looks like and how they're thinking about the market. And so really, this is the base, kind of the data, or kind of the conversations that helped drive some of the ideas that are in this talk. And so just I would kind of start with the first question of why is it that projects are pursuing multi-chain deployment strategies? And after all, mono-chain deployment strategies worked fine for a long time. So why is it that things have shifted to this multi-chain approach these days? And I identify a few drivers here that are common among a lot of the people we've spoken with. I would say that this desire for the protocols to get at new users, to grow their user base, and to grow, particularly for DeFi applications, the assets that they're servicing are some of the key drivers. So these protocols are kind of hungry, right? They want to kind of grow, they want to expand, they want to kind of address more users and assets. And not all users, not all assets are on any given chain at this point, as we kind of enter into this increasingly multi-chain kind of environment. So expanding to different chains is just a way to kind of grow these protocols, and that's something that we're seeing quite a bit of these days. And it's a lot of the partner projects that are working with us are deploying to Moonbeam in addition to other chains. This last point that I have around available block space, I would say that is also an important driver. So the simple fact there is that you can't address all users and use cases from a single chain, and particularly from folks that are coming from an Ethereum-based deployment. There, given the current fees, there are definitely a lot of users and use cases that can't be served there. And so there's kind of this thirst for available block space that's driving these protocols to expand to different chains. There is one subtle other point, which is that I think for a lot of teams now, particularly as we'll talk about later, that are pursuing this kind of EVM targeted approach, if the protocol teams themselves don't expand, someone else is going to do it for them. So we have heard this from a number of teams that, if they don't expand, then someone might, it's all open source, right? They might take their code and kind of fork their repository and then, deploy it for them. So then they'll have kind of a competing project if they don't do it themselves. So that's kind of what's happening, in the market. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, different approaches that we see, just kind of broadly speaking. And so I'll go through each of these in turn, going from the simplest approach, taking a bridged approach. This kind of ported or EVM targeted approach is kind of a lot of, kind of what a lot of the projects we're working with now are pursuing. And then ultimately, where I think things are going in the future is something I'm calling a native multi-chain approach. So I'll spend some time talking about what that means and what that is. And so just digging into each of these approaches, so when I talk about a bridged multi-chain approach, really the idea here from a developer standpoint is, look, I'm going to deploy in one place, but I'm going to use different bridges or cross-chain integrations to both move perhaps my native protocol asset out to other destinations, and think about it in the context of a DeFi protocol to kind of bring assets into me basically, so I can service them. And so this idea has been around for some time, but there's a lot of innovation happening in this area right now, and there's a lot of different approaches being pursued to cross-chain integrations. So even to use Moonbeam as an example, we have several different categories of integrations here. We have point-to-point bridges, like our deployment of ChainSafe's ChainBridge to connect us back to the Ethereum mainnet. We have integration networks like Axelar and Ren that are kind of multi-point, integrations, right? Kind of allow movement of assets from multiple different destinations, to and from Moonbeam. Use case specific bridges, like we're partnering with a team at mynft.com to create a bridge that's specific to NFT use cases. And last but not least, I think as parachains come to life, the Polkadot native integrations are something that we're very, very excited by. I see this as one of the key benefits of being a parachain on Polkadot is this ability to interact with other parachains, and ultimately I do see Polkadot being kind of a key kind of point at which a lot of trade routes are kind of running, right? So a lot of trade routes will be running through Polkadot. It's going to be kind of a hub of commerce, in this multi-chain future. So that those are all different kinds of integrations that would support this kind of bridged idea. Just moving on to this ported multi-chain idea. This is something that again, like a lot of the projects we're working with are pursuing this idea. And so let me kind of use a specific example to try to make it clear what we're talking about here. So we have a partner, Linear Finance. They're building a synthetics platform. And so they have a strategy of deploying to 3 destinations, right? So Moonbeam, Ethereum, and Binance Smart Chain. And so the idea is that, and this is where the EVM targeted part comes in, each of these 3 deployment destinations is an Ethereum-like chain. So what that allows you to do is, they can take kind of more or less a single code base and deploy it 3 times, right? They can deploy it to Moonbeam, they can deploy it to Ethereum, they can deploy it to BSC, and they kind of minimize the amount of engineering effort that it takes to support these different chains. But then they're in 3 different places, right? So they can service the users and assets and different use cases on these different chains. And so you can see over on the right, if for their front end application, you kind of give the user the choice, right? They can connect to either Moonbeam or Ethereum or BSC, and you kind of the user is kind of aware of like kind of what chains are being supported, and you're kind of asking them to choose where it is that they want to perform certain actions. And so yeah, I think a lot of teams are pursuing this kind of EVM targeted multi-chain deployment strategy at this point. I mean, we see some examples of teams that are even they're kind of making the front end kind of multi-chain aware, so they might be referring to the different backends as different markets or different they're kind of representing that in the UI, but then having these separate kind of smart contract deployments on different backend chains. So this is kind of I would call this kind of the state of the art kind of right now. It does present some user experience challenges, which I'll talk about in a bit. But this is kind of what's happening. There's quite a bit of this happening right now. And so I'm just going to flip things around now and ask a separate question. So the question here is, what makes for a good deployment destination? So let's say that you want to be an attractive destination for these teams that are pursuing a multi-chain deployment. So what does that take? And we've learned quite a bit about this, in the last 6+ months that we've really been working with a lot of teams on deployments. And I would kind of categorize the key learnings into 2 main areas. So one area is that there's a lot of dependencies that are kind of outside of the core Ethereum implementation, right? So you can have a chain that is Ethereum-like, great, but that doesn't get you all the way there. And so to give an example of some of the partners we're working with on the DeFi side, they have dependencies with each other, right? So you can't kind of go alone, right? None of these people can kind of go alone because they need other protocols to also be there in order to function.
It's too dangerous to go alone.
Provides a lending and borrowing service. They need an AMM like Sushi to function. Sushi in turn needs stable coins like Frax or ArcX to serve as trading pairs like on their DEX, and so on, right? So there's kind of this complicated set of dependencies in the ecosystem itself when you're trying to make for an attractive deployment environment. And then kind of digging in underneath, in terms of technical, kind of requirements, this is something we've learned a lot too. So we've gotten, a lot of, I'd call it feedback or maybe even complaints. And by the way, we love complaints. I think complaints are great. Complaints in the space are great because, it tells you, 1, that people care and like they're trying to, get something to work. And 2, it just makes it clear where there's more effort needed, right? So it leads, and that's, driven a lot of our own roadmap in terms of where we need to spend more time with documentation or with additional feature work. As an example, a lot of teams were feeding back to us that we needed indexed data services like the Graph or Covalent to power kind of performant front ends. We got complaints around our block explorers and that we needed to provide advanced block explorers that could look inside of the EVM call stack. And so this kind of drove a lot of the work we did, oracles as well. A lot of the work that's gone on in the last 6 months has been kind of responding to these kind of complaints and kind of addressing, providing these things that are needed to make for a kind of a complete development environment. I wanted to just talk about one other point that I think is quite important, and that's UX. And so, the point I'd make here is that, a lot of the tools that are in this space now were really designed with a mono-chain deployment in mind. And, as we're moving into apps that are multi-chain, I think this is already starting to show some challenges. So as an example here, right, I mean, if you have kind of a wallet and it kind of expects to be connected to one chain, then when you're in a multi-chain environment, you're kind of forcing the user then to understand, well, which chain am I connected to? Do I need to switch from chain A to chain B? And, I kind of see this problem as only getting exacerbated over time as, I expect more and more specialized chains to appear. It can't be the case that users need to understand what all those chains are and what services they're providing. So I think this is kind of a key challenge as we move into, this multi-chain environment. And, I just want to kind of set it up that, this last category of multi-chain applications that I'm most excited about are these ones I call native multi-chain. And so what does that mean? And this is something that I think Polkadot is really uniquely positioned to support, and is really one of the reasons why we're so bullish on Polkadot and building in this ecosystem. So let me give you an example from Moonbeam's perspective of what this means. So of course on Moonbeam you can have, as a developer, you can deploy a local smart contract. So you can have an application with a contract and a front-end app that's interacting with that contract. That's just normal. That's kind of like Ethereum or other chains. But then we have these special integration smart contracts. We have a couple examples of this now, and we plan to add many more of these in the future. And so what these integration smart contracts do is they basically are a window. They look like just a regular smart contract from the EVM's perspective, but they're kind of a window. You can reach in and kind of perform more powerful substrate-based functions via these contracts. So things like cross-chain actions using XCMP, which is one of the primitives that one can use in Substrate to send messages between chains. In our case, I'll give you another example. We have a contract like this that is providing access to staking functionality on our chain, right? That was implemented in Substrate. And so I think this is quite a large design space of different services that we can offer to developers that are using the Ethereum tech stack. And the cool thing here is that, two things. I mean, one is the developer kind of is given this higher level service, so they don't necessarily need to, understand all of the details of the underlying implementation. They can look at it, but they don't need to kind of understand that when they're building their app. So there's kind of an abstraction layer there. And then the user also doesn't need to understand all these things, right? They can go look, it's an open system, but they're not forced to understand all of these different chains and what they do. So I think it's kind of a double win here, especially given the UX challenges that we just spoke about. And so, I wanted to just kind of conclude with a few thoughts. I mean, I think the question that I think is interesting is kind of why Polkadot, right? I mean, why is it that Polkadot is a good fit for what we're trying to do? And I'd offer kind of two main kind of points here, and perhaps three. And the first is that it's the power of Substrate, right? So I mean, Substrate is extremely powerful, and I think what it really does is it allows you to customize your chain at a very low level, and that's exactly what we needed to be able to provide this very Ethereum-like experience. And I just don't know of any other platform that will allow for that level of customization. So things like the accounts and keys on the system. We've made Ethereum-like. These are very low-level kind of changes we made that were uniquely enabled by Substrate. And then, Polkadot, it provides the networking, right? So you have these specialized chains such as ours and from other teams that you've seen today. And the ability for these chains to talk to each other, is extremely powerful, right? And I think this is something that, as parachains come live on Kusama, we'll start to see the power of these interactions. And ultimately, our long-term vision is, we really want to provide a set of services. My mental model is like AWS, right? So we have AWS, you have these services that are very powerful and very simple to use. We kind of see a future where there's services like that, and maybe the services on Moonbeam are more like a compute service, right? A generic compute service. But ultimately, there'll be many infrastructural services that developers can use. And the key difference, of course, would be that that the services would be decentralized, unlike the AWS services. And so that's really something that we see as uniquely enabled by Polkadot, and that's one of the key reasons that we're so bullish on the ecosystem. I think that's kind of we obviously want to talk to you if you're interested in deploying to Moonbeam or have a multi-chain deployment strategy you're thinking through. Or just looking for an easy place to develop your application on Polkadot. We'd love to hear from you via one of the channels below. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Derek. I think we have some time here for a couple questions. First of all, and you touched on this a little bit, there's a question about other projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, parachain projects or otherwise, that you're closely collaborating with. I actually interviewed Derek yesterday evening for the 3rd episode of Behind the Code, so we got into some of this, and I think you had really some good insights on sort of how Polkadot's architecture encourages the collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little bit philosophical, but I do think there's this connection between the structure and architecture of software and of Polkadot in particular, and what that means for the way that teams need to collaborate, like humans need to collaborate around it, and these projects need to collaborate. And I think the structure of Polkadot, it's more structured than other systems, and allows for a richer, more expressivity, I guess is what I'd say. But it's this kind of fact that the structure of the software is such that we all need to collaborate very closely to achieve this whole is greater than the sum of its parts use cases. And so I can see that. I can see that in the interactions between the teams that we're working with. I mean, there's even some teams where maybe there's even some amounts of small overlap, right, in terms of target audience we're trying to achieve. But that's the really cool thing about the Polkadot ecosystem is I think people kind of understand that we're all part of the same mission in a way, right? And available to help each other out. So
and the ability to, and I think we were talking about this with the third sort of group of projects you're working with, like these native multi-chain projects that are potentially coming to Moonbeam first to develop their idea, because there's a lot of Solidity developers out there. It's a good well of developers to tap. Can you talk a little bit about how you might envision a team starting out by deploying some Solidity code on Moonbeam and then sort of growing into Polkadot, potentially becoming a parachain themselves, and how you would look on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're very happy when something like that happens, right? Because when you're starting out, anytime you're starting out anything, right? I mean, you have some ideas, but you need to try them, you need to test them, you need to see if you're going to find that product market fit. So I think that exploring ideas is something that Moonbeam would be very good for, right? I mean, you can kind of quickly and cheaply deploy something to test the concept, and then once you find that product market fit, though, it may make more sense to be your own parachain, right, to develop in Substrate. And so we're quite happy if we can serve as kind of the on-ramp kind of stepping off point for teams that do that. Nothing would make me happier, right?
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question, and I got to ask. Obviously, parachains coming very soon to Kusama, Moon River. What's the strategy? What's the approach for getting that live on Kusama?
Yeah, I would say that even just before I was coming here, there's quite a lot of activity happening on that. I think that our whole team is really quite focused on the Moon River deployment. I would say that right now we're really working through the operational kind of plan of what steps are going to happen, how we can do it safely. For example, like one of the things we're working through right now is exactly like what the different phases will be post launch, where we enable successive degrees of functionality, much like was done on Kusama and on Polkadot, right? Because we're always trying to just make safety is kind of number one, like security and safety. So that's kind of the lens through which we're kind of looking at things.
We're looking to collaborate, but the blockchain itself, I think Alice mentioned in the Behind the Code episode earlier, is like blockchains. These consensus systems are like adversarial environments at the consensus level. So having something like Kusama to actually be able to like put it out there in the world and see people try to mess with it a little bit is, I think, we found it very valuable launching Kusama, and I think teams launching layer one parachains like yourself will also find it to be a useful experience, because obviously the Moonbeam launch should be, as we said with the Polkadot launch, boring.
Right.
Boring is great.
I mean, if it's boring, then yeah, exactly. And I can tell you, even just the things that it's forced us to think through now early is already invaluable, right? So yeah, I think we're, it's a culmination of quite a lot of effort over the last almost year and a half now, but we're really excited about it.
Amazing. I think that's going to wrap it up for the community talks for the day. Derek, thank you very much for traveling down from Boston. We will be back very shortly, so go grab a beer if you are of age to join us for a barstool chat with Gavin Wood coming up next.
Oh, I'm definitely getting a beer for a completely different reason. So yeah, that was. Let me just mute this for a second here. I might exit with this music if it goes on. If otherwise, I'll do pretzel. But yeah, that was Polkadot Decoded. And note that if I can get a full screen mode here, note that this so we're gonna cut off here because I'm not awake enough nor care to talk to Gavin Wood, who is one of the big Web3 people and also helps up the Polkadot chain itself. He used to work for Ethereum. And then tomorrow on May 20th, there'll still be stuff going on. So there's going to be like 3 opening talks, and then they have 3 different tracks, and there's going to be all sorts of different things talking about NFTs, the IoTs, a lot of T's at the end. Various workshops, which I'm excited for, like actually hands-on coding and designing workshops, cross-chain apps, liquidity protocols, all sorts of different things. Now, like I said, originally I was going to stream all this stuff tomorrow, but one, I have work tomorrow. By the time I get back, we would only basically be able to do one of the workshops, and that's it. You can also learn how to create your NFTs. I'll still be on this platform interacting with people tomorrow, but I'm going to be at work for a huge chunk of it. Same way I'm going to be hanging out also online after this if you are on Polkadot Decoded. And 2 is that now, as I realized, Hopin, while it's an amazing platform to do conferences on, it's terrible if you also want to stream that out publicly, because it apparently eats all your bandwidth. So ideally, now I know going forward, Hopin, if we ever need to do Hopin, I either have to pre-record the entire thing, or can use another computer to run Hopin by itself, so it's on its own bandwidth, separate from anything that we're streaming on, because we're running on the most powerful computer we have, and it's pretty powerful with this laptop here, and it still ate up all the bandwidth. It doesn't matter how much monster CPU or GPU has, especially in the United States, we are very limited on bandwidth, and so once that happens, it's completely over. So anyhow, I don't know if we are live streaming, if we're gonna stream the pre-record video or just upload it. If we do, this would be around the time, or if you're on DLive, you would get the lemons. And this is also around the time where we'd spend a minute rating another person's stream. So that would literally happen basically in about 10 to 15 seconds from now, because I'm going to do the ending spiel. Well, thanks for everyone trying to put up with today. It was really awesome to talk to you folks when we were live. Unfortunately, thanks to the way Hopin's design and Polkadot's use of Hopin, we weren't able to do the rest of this live. But we, everything's a learning experience. Like Crypto Barons, again, Crypto Barons, no programs ever work. As I said, you want it to be boring. One of the reasons why we do all the coding live in Crypto Barons, because usually it does fail and we have to hack it, and that's what makes things interesting. When you actually want things to work, you want things to be really boring. So, I guess we're following in the theme of the show. But that's this today's special, and I'm glad people were interested and got to go along with me. Our next Crypto Barons episode will be on the 29th, where we're going to look at various technologies. That will be at 8 p.m. Saturday, May 29th, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Where we'll be looking at various VR technologies that involve cryptocurrency, including a big one called Decentraland. So I hope you're able to check us out then. In June, or the next episode, remember the 1st and 4th Saturdays of the month. So all the ones for next month will be June 12th and June 26th. Same bat place, same bat time at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this Friday, if you're living in this time period, that would be May 21st in 2021. We are having our meeting starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going into 10 or 11 p.m. or so. It's going to be entirely VR themed. We're going to be meeting in a VR space called Now Here. There's going to be DJ music, really awesome security and development talks from people who work in VR technology. So I hope you're able to check that out. And if you want to check that out, you can go to our website at defcon201.org. You can also find our blog, which I believe is defcon201.medium.org, or you can just go to the website and click on the news section. We're also all over social media, such as DEFCON201NJ on Twitter and DEFCON201 on Instagram, GitHub, Hostux.social instance of Mastodon, all of that. So I hope to see you later this week during the meeting. I hope to see you on the 29th for the next episode. And I hope to see you in person soon, because things are starting to look good now. Cross your fingers that still goes on. So thank you for joining me for the Polkadot Decoded special. I wish we could have did the rest of this live, but now we have a bunch of broken videos to follow how Popped In and Polkadot screwed up. Hope you have a good day. Again, when we go to this, we're going to leave a minute for coins and ratings. So DLive coins right now and rating right now if we're somehow streaming this. So anyhow, hack the planet, Dirty Jersey represent, and remember, Hopin eats all of your bandwidth if you try to stream. Use a separate machine or pre-record. We know this now on the blockchain. Peace, everybody. Enjoy the outro music. I'm just going to use the ones they're using for the con.